But on the policy, an exclusive report from Sky News has revealed that Labor has launched a special campaigning fund to fuel anti-nuclear fake news. They're begging members for cash to finance it. Now, I hope it's going to be a bit better than some of those pathetic memes that Labor MPs were putting out on social media during the week. But in a newsletter briefing emailed to Labor's members, ALP National Secretary Paul Erickson called the coalition's nuclear policy a scam. And I think they are worried about this, Evelyn, because we do have a proposal. Now, sure, we don't have the numbers yet, they will come, but there is a proposal now on the table for the first time in a very long time to do something different with the energy mix in this country. And the only way that Labor can possibly hope to fight this is on the economics. They can't win the argument about safety anymore, even though you saw some of the premiers try to play along those lines, Jacinta Allen and whatever this week. But it was really interesting to see Peter Malinauskas, the South Australian Premier, who in my heart of hearts I believe supports nuclear energy, but he's had the talking to from Mr Albanese. He was much more mild in his criticism that, the economics doesn't stack up. It's literally the only argument they've got against the thing, right?
Look, I think fear-mongering is a very powerful thing, and I think we've seen the fruits of what fear-mongering can do the last few years, and so I think Labor are going to perhaps lean on that a little bit, and the way that they're doing that is through this economic thing, because right now we are in such an economic crisis, a cost of living crisis. So if you say to somebody it's going to be hard for money or it's going to be harder on you, people are going to panic because right now we don't even know if we're going to be able to afford our winter electricity bill. So they will use fear-mongering to try and discredit the other proposal. That's a tactic. All politicians on both sides do it. They're all birds of the same feather, unfortunately, when it comes to that. But, I've got to be honest, I think that Liberal aren't going far enough with their proposition. I think, was it 2050? That they said we will have nuclear
we can have one
and
online
renewable
by 2035 as small modular reactors.
Yeah. I think that people would be a lot more comforted at home if they thought that it was going to happen a lot quicker than 2050.
The only problem is that it does take a long time to build. But
they did it over in China in less than 10 years.
Well, they can do anything in China.
We're all for importing people in Australia.
Also were able to erect them very quickly as well, South Korea.
And the thing is, if we don't put something else on the table, we keep going down the same road we are at the moment, Lucy. I mean, you can look at your power bill, I can look at my power bill. It's abundantly clear that, A, we didn't get our $275 off that was promised, though Bowen now says we're still working on it, we're still working on it.
Yeah, it's still coming.
But we're told that renewables are the cheapest form of power. They're not. It's abundantly clear. And yes, there is a big expense in setting up nuclear energy, but it's technology that can last for 80, 100 years. 20, 30 years' time, you've got to blow up the wind turbines and take them out the back of Queensland.
If they're not already blowing up on their own, by the way. You've seen some of the footage across social media, but then you've also got to worry about, OK, where are we disposing of these wind turbines? I mean, we talk a lot about, when it comes to nuclear energy, about where we're going to, carefully dispose of that and the issues that are aligned in that respect. But ultimately, for me, I mean, you look at the top-performing economic countries around the world who have all endorsed nuclear energy. You've got the USA, for example, who've got 90 reactors who are all very supportive of it. They have bipartisan support, which is very crucial to a success. The biggest concern for me when I look at this, and I'm very supportive of Dutton's announcement as well, by the way, I think it is the way forward. In fact, I think we're a little bit too far behind in this announcement. But, what's going to happen if the Liberals do get this up and then in another term beyond that, we then get a Labor government in power again? Are they just going to dismantle the whole thing?
It'll be like the wall. It'll be like Trump's wall. He started it and then Biden pulled it down.
Exactly. So that's the problem.
The Labor Party doesn't have an argument for two reasons. The first is Lucas Heights. Been there 66 years. No three-eyed fish.
I grew up there.
No three-eyed fish.
Hey, I grew up next to the reactor.
After 60
Evelyn, I thought there was something a bit
I knew I was setting myself up. I went on school excursions there.
They've got
That's how I became right-wing.
They've got Lucas Heights, right? So that we know that's what's going on, and it's worked safely for 66 years, and they're going to put nuclear reactors in submarines with sailors sleeping right alongside them. They haven't got a leg to stand on.
The safety thing clearly is, and that's what I'm saying. They should make a sober economic argument against it, like Peter Malinauskas has done and like Chris Minns has done. And there, you'll notice there's a difference between the Labor left premiers and the ones on the right.
As you like to point out.
That's right, and because there is a very significant difference. And again, there's a sensible Labor right union like the AWU is actually pro-nuclear energy. The question is simply one of economics, and it's one of time frames. It's how quickly can they be up and running? Can they be up and running in time to meet our targets in 2050, let alone 2035? And is there, and what is the cost-benefit analysis? How much is it going to cost? Now,
why wouldn't we build for the future, though? Because long-term, it does work better and economically better.
If you can make that argument, if you present the costings, fine, absolutely. I'm not anti-nuclear in the slightest. But Dutton has not done that. Dutton just said...
No, it's Albanese who hasn't done it. They will not supply their total costings. They won't do it. Miles was on television, breakfast television this week, and he was asked repeatedly, what is the total costing of switching completely to renewables? He didn't have a number.
I'm not talking about costing the entire Australian energy system forever and ever, which can never be done. I'm just saying, cost just one nuclear reactor. Have a blueprint. This is this nuclear reactor. This is what type of reactor it will be. Well, I could say the same about renewables. Then we're all back to Graham Mark.
Yeah, but we're doing renewables. That's the difference. We're doing renewables.
And they're failing.
And each of those projects does have a cost attached to it. It has a megawatt output. Just Dutton hasn't even provided the costings, the time frame of even a single one of these.
Yeah, but it's like you expected him to come out with War and Peace and tell you every little bit of what was going to happen on the day.
This is a guy who demanded, said there was nowhere near enough detail on the Voice.
But he said it's on its way. He said it's coming soon, right? He said this announcement was the first step as part of a process building up towards the election in 12 months' time. So ultimately, I think, yes, I do agree with you, Joe, to an extent. I think it would have helped his cause much more if he was able to initially, right from the announcement, make it abundantly clear what the costings were going to look like. But he's already admitted it. He spoke to the Today Show the other day. He said it's coming. He's already said it's going to cost a fraction of what the Labor government are proposing in terms of their renewables.
Something I think that we also need to discuss, and something I think that our country, culturally speaking, has got really long for a long time, is we're not planning for our kids and their kids and their kids. We are too short term. We're thinking right now, this is a really big cost now, but I think that the problem is, and this is a great analogy, we plant the orange trees now and we might not be able to enjoy the fruit, but our kids are going to be able to make orange juice from the oranges that grow from those trees. And I think we need to, especially with policy, especially with these energy things, we need to be thinking more long term. How are we going to protect our kids and their kids from having to suffer the crisis that we're currently in? And I think that if we approached it with that, I think people would be a lot more willing to perhaps foresee differences in cost and expenditure, especially if in long term nuclear was going to be better for our kids.
Well, and the Labor Party aren't even allowing for the debate, though. This is the biggest issue that I have.
We weren't allowed to talk about nuclear.
We can't have a mature and sensible discussion around it.
It's actually a bomb that could explode on the Labor Party, because the real total costs, by the time you put in 28,000 kilometres of transmission lines, they're talking about. One calculation I saw today was $1.2 trillion to get to switch Australia to renewables. And the maximum for the 7 nuclear reactor sites decided so far is about $600 million. If they keep pushing this cost thing, Joe, it'll blow up in their face.
Imagine they didn't waste the money on the Voice.
That's the $600 billion or whatever you want to call it, or the $16 billion per nuclear reactor. And again, the last one in the UK, their costs are just blown out astronomically, right? So even the initial costs. What government project doesn't? That's right. No, I get that. I understand that. But that is just for the construction of the power plant. The $1 trillion figure that's bandied about, that is for the entire Australian energy network.
We don't need a new network. It's existing. It runs to where the old coal-fired place. We just plug it in and turn on the power.
There's not enough capacity in the existing network, Hal.
We can argue all day about whether there's enough capacity. We need power. And guess what? Nuclear energy is zero emission. And the fact that it is still banned in this country is the most ridiculous part of all. Because, of course, if it's banned, it tries to discourage us having the argument about whether or not we can have it.
So lift the ban and see if the private sector thinks it adds up.
I totally agree. Lift the ban and let's get on with it. If it can't be delivered, then it won't be delivered.